Welcome to our June 1st work session meeting. Pursuant to Board Policy 1B.5, all meetings of the Salisbury Township School District are audio and video recorded. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. DeFrank?
Here.
Mr. Freeze?
Here.
Mrs. Glenister is not here. Mr. Ganal?
Here.
Mrs. Klinger?
Here.
Mr. Kuzo?
Here.
Mrs. McKelvey?
Here.
Mrs. Nemitz?
Here.
And Mr. Spinner is not here. I have 7 in attendance.
Okay. Do we have anybody signed up for citizens' comments? None. Okay, we will move on. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Freeze, who's going to lead the Operations Committee portion of the meeting.
All right, thank you. All right, we have 3 items tonight, and our first item, I believe, is going to be led by Mrs. Fudy-Hetton and potential others. We have, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Bus Patrol is not on Zoom yet, so maybe we should.
Okay, yeah, we will, looks like Mr. Brackett is ready, so we will go to item 2.2, he's ready for to give us some great details about the varsity softball dugout update. Mr. Brackett.
I was going to. I got you. So good evening. Last time we were together, I told you I would get a more solid cost for 2 dugouts for the varsity softball field at Western Elementary. Last time we were together, we were looking at an estimated cost for the dugouts, sideline safety fencing, and site work at approximately $140,000. Even though the dugouts came out about $1,000 more than what I told you, so total cost for the dugouts is $82,000. Fencing came in considerably less than I expected, and that rounded up is right at $7,000, and that's 40 feet of black vinyl fencing in front of both dugouts. You want a little bit extra on both sides. The dugouts themselves will be 28 feet long, so we have a nice about 5 feet or so of fencing for protection on each side. And site work, we'll do the majority of the site work ourselves, but I am going to incur some costs with stone. I'll incur some costs with sand, and I may have to bring in a larger excavator to do the work, but I think we can handle the majority of it ourselves. So miscellaneous costs at around $10,000. So round everything up, add it all together. Total cost for two dugouts at the varsity softball field is right at $100,000.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Brackett?
No. Thanks for that.
So the expectation is next meeting you'll be coming to us for 2 items for approval, the contract for the fencing and also for the dugouts, is that correct? Or
if you give me word tonight that we're moving forward, then I can start the process with the precast company to start making them. And then I can activate the fencing company and make sure they start collecting all their material.
Sure.
Is there anybody who's opposed to this?
I just have a general question, but
Okay.
I'm not opposed. Is the intention to pay out of the bond? Mm-hmm. And is there a benefit to doing that rather than, and this may be a really stupid question, than using some of the
Fund balance.
fund balance?
Yep.
Yeah.
Christine, do you want to answer that one?
I think it's perfectly legitimate to take it out of the bond fund. As you know, we have to be down to that 85% or 15% remaining by fall. I do have an adjustment that I found that needed to be made in it also that's going to put about an additional $6,000 back into the balance. So, you know, we pretty much were right on the border of the plan doing it.
This will get us about to that point?
Well, no, this would put us below the
Okay.
15% that we need. Yes, it would put us well within where we need to be.
Oh.
Any other questions? Sounds like you're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just a quick comment. I don't know, Monica, our Director of Student Activities and Athletics, Monica Deeb, has joined us tonight. Monica, anything you want to add about softball dugouts or anything you want to share? Monica's been working with Bill also.
Come up to the microphone, please.
Especially with the mask.
We can hear you, but we want to tape you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. We might as well go right to 2.3 because I think it's going to be quick. The health and safety update. Ms. Feeney, had anything you want to note there?
Sure. So as the board is aware, we're required to update the health and safety plan every 6 months. Our last approval was March 16th, so that takes us, April, May, June, July, August, September, so we have time. A lot of districts are doing it this month because they didn't do another revision. So as a board, we can think about, what do you want to see for next year in terms of the health and safety plan? Do we want to continue to maintain a matrix? If we do want to maintain a matrix, I would suggest some adjustments to the matrix. After having used it, we found some things that we'd want to change in terms of implementation and in terms of the percentages that we used. Unknown variables, what is the state going to tell us in August that we might need to make an adjustment or might have us impact. At this point, as an admin team and as superintendent, I'm recommending that we go back to pre-COVID practices from desks, location to single cafeteria and students sitting next to each other. June 10th is our last day to report cases to the state. And we currently have 260, I think. 160, elementary, middle school, high school. We see it on the board, so. Sorry. You're not inside our heads. You're not inside our heads. So, in terms of planning, and it's important to make that point now because if we're going back to regular cafeteria, that has impact on teacher schedules as principals are working on those over the summer. Ability to use the full gym at the elementary building, ability to use the gym at the high school because we have a second cafeteria in the auxiliary gym. So there are some planning implications, and I wanted to sort of get a sense from the board if you're supportive of moving back to pre-COVID practices and of the administration bringing a new matrix if we want that, or just the health and safety plan stripped down, pulled out some of those other practices for the fall.
I like the idea. It'll help with your planning as well. So.
I do too. I mean, I think these last few variants that this last variant that we had, moved very swiftly, but this is all, like we've been saying for 2 years, we've never done this before. So I'm happy to keep a matrix for the coming year.
And if we are keeping the matrix, I would recommend that we increase the percentages, consider removing the middle tier, and consider moving back down a step after a week instead of 2 weeks. We maintained 2 weeks, and we saw that drop pretty quickly.
For some of those details, though, those aren't going to affect planning, right? So
they don't. So we don't need to make that decision now.
Wait for August.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just giving you a sense of sort of what I was thinking. But waiting until August and bringing those ideas to the board.
And to be clear, nothing will affect the summer program because you said you'll stop reporting cases, so that'll be.
The state requires us to report cases through June 10th.
Okay, got it.
So basically, you're looking for also that, can you have the space back is mostly what I'm hearing. And
well, I want the board to understand what our intention is, and if you have concerns about that we address them now, because it does have planning implications.
No. My concern is I wasn't putting together in my head is if you do adjust the matrix, are you going to be able to gain that space back? Or are you asking us to eliminate the matrix so you can have the space back?
No, I don't think the matrix is dependent on the space.
That's okay.
What's, the challenge with the matrix that we don't know in the fall, and when we masked, we didn't have the issue of quarantining as many students. Yeah. That was a huge benefit of masking for the state requirement of state recommendation of quarantining students when they're within that 6 feet range. I have no idea what the guidance is going to be this August. So wait and see.
So it sounds like we'll look to see an updated version for reapproval come August.
And I think I'm hearing the board say you want a matrix, you at least want to see a matrix with some revisions. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
How is Bus Patrol online now?
Yes.
Okay.
Matt, are you there, Matt?
I sure am.
All right, great. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. I'm actually going to connect you to the TV here so that we can see you.
Sounds good.
All right. Oops. All right, Matt, we can see you. You can see me. But we do
Absolutely.
We do have a full room here of our board members and some of our leadership team. And we'll let you take it away. And if you want to screen share so that the board can see your information, you should have rights to do that.
Perfect. It's up here. Seems to be frozen. One sec. On Zoom, it seems to do this where it freezes for a few minutes. Why? Get it going here. Well, while I'm getting this going, can you still hear me okay while the screen's frozen?
We can.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'll get started while it kicks in. Usually takes a few seconds for some reason. Matt Anderson from Bus Patrol. Thank you again for the opportunity to join you all today. We are eager and excited to partner with you all through this program of Bus Patrol, which is the automated stop arm program, which we are now partnered with close to 20 districts across Pennsylvania. So it's growing, and we've been in Pennsylvania since August 1st of 2020 was when the law was updated to allow programs like us to participate throughout the state. And then since then, it's about 20 programs, give or take, about 1,800 buses so far. We're fully expecting that to be about 30 programs, 2,500 buses by the end of the summer. I'd be happy to share those with you if you guys had any individual questions about anybody in your neighborhood or any references. But what we're trying to do. So Bus Patrol, when we got started back in 2017, the whole goal of the program was to help reduce the 17 million illegal passings that occur every year across the country. So that comes out to 95,000 per day based off the latest NASDIP survey that was held in 2018-2019 school year right before COVID hit. They are rerunning that survey this year. So we're awaiting those results. Hopefully those numbers have been driven down, but we're curious to see if they have been at all. Just to put that in context, in 2014, that number was 13 million. So it's been going and trending in the wrong direction for the last few years. One of the items that you'll notice on this slide is the 0.73 violations per bus per day. That is what our national average is across the country. So that's the national average for the country, as well as our national average across the 9 states we operate in, about 23,000 buses in total. We see about 0.5 to 0.7 violations per bus per day on all of our programs as well. And then what does this actually mean for Pennsylvania specifically? So before we started operating in Pennsylvania, we worked with Senator Brown, and his home district was Allentown Public Schools. So we partnered with Allentown Public Schools to run a pilot to see exactly what the problem actually is. We have all these national stats, we have these surveys, we have all this information, but what was the actual information on the street telling us? So in all of 2018, out of 21,000 plus buses, there was a total of 667 approved citations in Pennsylvania. We ran a pilot for 3 months or 47 days on 2 buses, and we came up with 205 violations. And what this goes to show us, which is the same data that we kind of capture everywhere we go, is that the true problem is significantly different than what the perceived problem is. Currently across Pennsylvania right now, our national average, or I'm sure our state average is about 0.4 violations per bus per day based off of those about 1,700 buses that are installed. So it's significant, not quite the 2.18 that Allentown collected. However, a majority of our programs do start out at that 2.18. So out of 2 buses, that's 4 violations per day. We have some districts that are 4 violations per bus per day. We have a district in your neck of the woods that has about 20 buses. They were seeing upwards of 80 violations, illegal passings per day on their 20 buses. So the goal for us, obviously, is to highlight the problem throughout the community and with the school district and help drive down those numbers through our automated enforcement program. And how do we do that? So we do it through 3 different pillars. So first, obviously, safety. So by equipping the buses with our external stop arm cameras and our AI technology that captures all the illegal passings that occur through the bus when the bus is actually stopped, we can channel those to law enforcement in real time to get that immediate feedback to the community. Second is budgeting. So we don't cost a penny to the school district, to the community. So everything we have and we provide is violator funded. So we take the violations that come in, and that's how we pay for the technology. So the school district will never be on the hook for a penny, no matter what the outcome of the program is. Bus Patrol is 100% financially responsible. And finally is the funding. So not only do we cover all the finances, we actually have a revenue source back to the school district as a 60-40 split. So every citation that comes in, we split 60-40 with the school district. So you do have a revenue source coming back to the school district through those citations, as well as we have partner technology that the school district can opt into if you'd like to help modernize your school buses. And again, Bus Patrol is 100% financially responsible for all those partner technologies as well. Quick snapshot of what some of the videos. So all of our systems are 4K 1080p. So you have the clarity, the same thing that you have at home watching TV is the same clarity that you'd have through the camera system. We have both still cameras, which I'll show you here in a second, or actually you'll see, this side, right over my shoulder here. We have a still box that captures still pictures of the vehicles and the license plate, no matter which way that vehicle is going. And then up top right there is our AVA camera. That's our AI-empowered camera. So that captures a video of the full incident. So that way we have both still pictures as well as a full video that we create for law enforcement and for those any individuals who choose to run the stop arm. They can see the same evidence that law enforcement sees that we package it together when we capture all of these incidents. And it's very simple. So weather does not matter. So rain, snow, dawn, dusk, none of that stuff matters anymore with the current technology that's out there. One of the beautiful things about having a system that we don't need to make affordable, we just went out, we created the best system that's possible. And then from there, all of the hardware basically will stay the same for the full 5, 6, 10 years of the program because it's the best that's currently out there. The firmware, the software updates, kind of like if you say you buy a Tesla and you want a different feature, you come home, you buy that feature, you download it to your car, and you have a brand new car. It's kind of how our camera system operates. So the software, the firmware updates are always updating the system to make it better, more progressive, while the hardware kind of stays the same. If there's ever a hardware switch, all the maintenance from the initial installation, all the maintenance throughout the life of the program is also handled by Bus Patrol. So if you guys retire 5, 10 buses, we come out, we deinstall, we reinstall on the new buses. Bus gets in an accident, we'll come out there and take care of all that as well throughout the life of the program. So how does the program work? Do a quick high overview, and I'm sure we'll have some questions about this. But as the vehicle, the bus is coming to a stop, the cameras they're always on, but they're only recording when the yellows or the reds are operational. So as that bus is coming to a stop, the yellows are on, obviously, when they're coming to the stop. We start recording to show a context of time for that individual stop. So those people around the bus, did they have enough time to actually stop for that bus? Or did that driver stop and push the stop arm out, not giving them adequate time? And once that bus is stopped, reds are on. I'll show you guys that here in a second. Actually, jump to that right now. It's a better visual. So you'll see the yellows are on. The stop paddles are still in. Once this bus comes to a stop, you'll see the reds come on. Both stop paddles come out. And you'll see AVA starts capturing any and all these vehicles who choose to pass the stop arm. And we like to show this video through the AI technology. It can differentiate the vehicles that are on the road versus the vehicles in the parking lot across the street. So you have that real-time information from the system that's helping differentiate and grabbing all of these incidents again in real time. And then once the paddles come back in, the bus starts moving, the video stops recording. So what Bus Patrol does is we have two sets of eyes or two layers of identification within our team before it ever gets to law enforcement. So we capture these, we build these up. We have a AVA system. So the mechanical system reviews every and all citations. It captures all the metadata. So time, date, longitude, latitude, everything needed per the state to have a enforceable citation. Then we have a human reviewer review everything for a second time. We are extremely conservative on what we call a citation. If we think there's any chance that a potential citation would get thrown out by law enforcement or by court, we throw those out on the front end because we don't want to waste anybody's time. Our goal is if we send 10 to law enforcement, we want 10 approved. We don't want 6, we don't want 7, we want 10 of those approved. And our team is graded based off of their accuracy on what they send to law enforcement. From there, law enforcement has the ability to review, and then they are the only ones, obviously, with the choice to approve or deny that citation. So once they review that citation, they can approve it or deny it based off the evidence provided to them. Once that evidence is provided, and let's say they deny it, we automatically throw those out, no questions asked. If they choose to approve it, it comes back to Bus Patrol. We mail a citation to the owner of that vehicle on behalf of police. The reason being is that we don't want to eat up more time. We know a lot of the times that they're low staffed or they have other priorities. So we don't want to add to their workload. So each one of these citations takes anywhere from 30 to 45 seconds for them to approve it or deny it after reviewing all the evidence. So if we have 20 citations a day, that's 15 to 20 minutes of their time. So again, we don't want to add to what their day-to-day tasks are. And throughout the life of the program as well, you guys have full transparency as well as law enforcement of what's going on in the program. Everything from how many tickets have been issued versus how many have been paid, what's the dispute rates, how many are being collected at certain stops. So we can drill down to the individual bus, to the individual stop to show you where most of the illegal passings are occurring, to give you guys that actionable data. Maybe you want to reroute that stop, get there earlier, get there later to help us drive down those numbers as soon as possible. So at any time, you can have this information for community members, for board members, for anyone who needs to access it. And then we have a ton of community outreach as well. So before the program ever goes live, we're working with local and national organizations. We've been on CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, you name it, Good Morning America, Today Show, all the groups showing how important it is to not pass a bus when it's stopped, when we have children getting on and off the bus. And then we'll do newspaper articles, we'll do Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn ads. Throughout the 5 years, we're constantly pushing out information about how critical and how important it is to stop for the school bus. Ideally, this is how we educate the community and drive down the numbers, is through this outreach process. And through the program, we all have some optional interior camera systems as well. So we can have up to 7 cameras on the interior of the bus. Again, all at no charge to you all. Everything's 4K, 1080p. What separates us a little bit from most companies is that we have a SIM card in each camera that'll allow you to instantly live stream any bus in real time, as well as live download any footage from that bus. So if there's a fight or something occurs on the bus, the driver will have an emergency button that they can activate, which will send an instant email and text message to whoever's on, say, a security chain or whatever you'd like to call it, with a link. So you'd have your phone, tablet, computer, you'd get an email or a text message with a link, click on that link, and you're in the bus in real time, hearing and seeing everything that's going on. Once that incident is over, you just say, hey, I want to download everything from 8:13 to 8:25, download, and we send you that video in an email shareable format. Quick view of what some of the cameras look like. So the ideal placement is out the front, so you can see what the driver sees. Out the back, so if someone smacks into the bus in the back, you have full video of that. We have a loading zone on the right side of the bus, so you can see everything that happens on the right side of the bus. And then obviously on the left side, we have the stop arm system. And then throughout the bus, we have a mesh of cameras that are covering the rest of the bus. Since everything is connected via SIM card, we have the ability to tell you if your cameras are operational as well, or you guys can access this whenever you'd like. So you always know day by day, hour by hour, if your cameras are operational or not. So you don't have to worry that a bus has been, a system on a bus hasn't been working for 2 weeks, because you will get a notification as well as we get a notification the second that a camera goes down. And that actually creates a work order in our system. We dispatch a tech and we come out there and fix that camera for you. Whether that's recalibration, deinstall, reinstall, whatever it is, we'll come out there and fix that issue for you. Again, we got the emergency alert button and the live streaming. And I'll leave you with this. It's our most prideful stat. So 98% of people who get a citation don't get a second, which really shows us throughout the life of the program for the last 5 years now that the education process is critical in driving down illegal passings, whether that's education through a citation or education through community outreach through one of our earned or paid for media programs. That the education side, once people know the law, know how important it is, and know what to do around the bus, that's when those numbers really start getting driven down. And that's what I got for you.
So Matt, before we open up to questions, I think one of the major concerns is we may not get enough violations to pay for the cameras. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So even if we never write a citation, so we go 5 years, we never write a citation and bus patrol is out $200,000, that's our problem. The district will never owe us a penny, no matter what the outcome of the program is. However, we've yet to have an unsuccessful financial aid program. So every program that we have, because the cost to hit the minimum technology fee or the amount of people passing the school bus, however you want to look at it, it's about 0.10, 0.05 in that range to be able to pay back the technology fee or that kind of minimum threshold. And we've yet to have a program not hit that.
Open it up to questions from our board. Anyone want to start?
Yeah, I have one. So correct me if I'm wrong, but what happens is the video gets recorded, it gets sent to you, and then you send it to the police, right?
Correct.
And do all of your employees have both criminal background checks and child abuse clearance checks, since we're going to be sending videos ostensibly of our children and where they are located to you?
So none of the interior videos are sent to us. We don't review those at all. Those are all the interior videos owned only by the district. District has full admin rights. If they want to share those with police or principals or whoever it is, that's completely up to the district to do so. The only access we have is the exterior videos of the cameras. And it's only a few people that have ability for that. So the reviewers are all state specific, actually regionally specific. So they only work in certain regions. And we'd be happy to provide you with any of their credentials.
Okay. So what safeguards are there to prevent employees from viewing that information? To be honest with you, I'm very concerned about child predators having access to videos of kids or students in the street, plus enough data to determine where they live. So what safeguards do you have in place to avoid predators gaining access to that information?
I'd be happy to share. So we have a full data security document, as well as I can offer up Scott Benton, who is our CTO, to better answer those questions. I'll supply the data security document, which should provide you with all those. Everything is VPN. We use Amazon Web Services for security. Everything's HTTPS or password security, secure password protected through the network. So there's only a few people. So we don't have, again, access to any of the interior camera data. That's all you guys. And the exterior camera data is only held by a few people.
Okay, thank you. I would appreciate that.
Absolutely.
One other question. So if any of the equipment or cameras are damaged, and you determine it's due to negligence on the part of the bus company. We don't own our buses. So who is then liable to repay the cost of those cameras or whatever else could be possibly damaged? Is the district on the hook for that, or would it be the bus company?
And ideally, it'd be no one. So if there ever was a penalty or a negligence hardware issue, then it would come out of the program revenue.
Okay.
Again, which is the violator funded program. We've yet to charge anyone ever, no matter what the hardware damage is. I don't foresee that happening.
Okay.
Just a question real quick. I saw your data. I assume at first you're going to get a plethora of violations. What does, after, say, 6 months or 2 years, does it come down for the hit rate? Because as you said, once a person passes a bus, they get their $300 ticket, they see the light. So what usually does it level out at that juncture further down?
Most of our programs, almost all of our programs, end up between 0.2 and 0.35 is where they hover. And that's fleets with 6 buses with, a town of 800 to fleets with 1,200 buses, in towns of 200,000. They all seem to end up at the same spot between that 0.2 and 0.35 violations per bus per day. So that's where we would expect you all to. But again, we won't know until 6 months, 2 years in. Ideally, the reduction is about 30% year over year for the first 3 years, and about 15 to 20% for the last 2 years of the program. Again, ending at that about 0.2, 0.3 range.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
My question, just real quick. Has our police department been looped into this yet?
Yes, and they are supportive.
Perfect. Thank you.
I have a few questions on, I was looking at through the agreement. There was a note about you needing access to our bus routes. Why do you need access to them? And there was a note about identifying a high-risk route. What happens if you identify a high-risk route? Does it nullify anything? Or I'm just curious about the need there.
Yeah, the main reason is we have 2 different systems. So that 4 over my shoulder here. So you can have 2 cameras on each side, or 4 cameras per box, or 2 cameras per box. The difference being, if there's 2 cameras, we can cover 4 lanes of traffic. We have 4 cameras, and we can cover 8 lanes of traffic. So it's really just to identify what system should go on what bus based off of the traffic, the lanes of traffic that they cover.
Got it. Okay. There was also a note about needing to assist bus patrol related to like court hearings, contesting tickets, things like that. Would we accrue any type of legal fees or anything like that we would have to be responsible for?
No, and actually, so that's pretty, I don't want to say generic language, but it is kind of generic language that we have within our agreement. So in Pennsylvania specifically, the school district will never have to go to court. So you guys are kind of, the drivers don't need to go, no one from transportation needs to go. The only person that would need to go is an officer from the local PD, or the PD approving that citation. Doesn't need to be the approving officer, just means an officer may need to go to court to validate to the judge why the citation was approved. Otherwise, the school district will never have to go to court.
Got it. All right, one last question. There's a note about being able to use the captured images for things such as marketing purposes. I'm just curious, like, what types of things that would include. Could we end up seeing our buses or anything on a website or on a brochure or anything that we?
My car passing the.
Or Lynn's car. I'm just curious what we could expect, and is that a requirement for the agreement?
No, completely up to you all. So we ask most of the time, just for mostly that earned media, or that media outreach that we have for the community, that we may take a couple snapshots of your bus with, say, like I have over my shoulder. It may say the district's name on there as well to send out on a Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn ad. That way we make it more specific to your community locally. That's really the only thing we're asking for. It's not to capture videos. It's not to push anything out there. It's not to scare anybody or anything like that. It's really just to make the content that we're pushing out to the community on how important it is specific to them based off of the district.
Okay.
We could modify the contract to say that.
Yeah, it's
we get approval or something.
Yep. Okay.
The one thing, Matt, I'm not sure if you talked about the GPS feature.
I did not. No, I didn't know if you wanted me to go in that or not. But I'm happy to.
Yeah, just that we would have the option to add that for administration's use.
Yeah, absolutely. So we partner with Zonar Systems for all their GPS and all their technology. So we'll incorporate or add GPS to all the school buses, allow you guys, the route specific information, on time arrivals, door open, door closes. Are they stopping at railroad tracks? All of that information, speed, idle, OBD2 or J-bus alerts that are coming through for the shop, so they can know, if there's a critical or minor issue coming through. So all of that data will be incorporated in. And again, we cover 100% of those costs through our partnership.
And does that data go then directly to the district, or does that route through you?
No, we want nothing to do with it. So,
Okay.
so you will be a customer of Zonar's as if we weren't there. We just pay the bill.
Just one comment on that technology from a district standpoint. It also shows you a quick view what buses may not be running that we might be getting billed for. So.
Well, and I think a benefit that I see is without a transportation director, multiple people are going to pick up those responsibilities. And if somebody's calling to say, we have a bus late, you have our building leaders could be looking at that information, our bus garage could be looking at that information. And one of the challenges that we've had is our staff at the bus garage are driving buses. So they're not in the bus garage when somebody calls and wants to know where the bus is. So I see that as a benefit and an option that if we choose to do this, we would recommend adding.
Can I go back to Laura's first?
For administration's use.
Sorry, if you want, are you continuing on?
I just had a question directly pertaining
Go
to
ahead.
that. And then, okay, just out of curiosity, could the system be set up in such a way where a parent knows where their child is? Or is it not that, like if my child is on bus 7, am I allowed as a parent to see where bus 7?
So I would advocate that it's for administration's use.
Okay, yeah.
So my question goes back to Laura's original question about background checks for the reviewers. Just to be clear, the people who are reviewing the outside, the exterior information, they don't have federal background checks or things of that nature, or do they? I never really got a clear answer on that.
I honestly don't know that answer. I will circle back with you on that one just to make sure I'm answering 100% clear.
If they are, great. If they're not, I would highly recommend that you look into that. I know even in my profession, and I do work at a school, but I'm nowhere near kids, but I still have to have my background checks. So it's not a hard process, and I just think it's a level of security that you would add to everyone here in doing that. With that said, though, on the other side of the coin is we're trying to protect kids by people not speeding around the side of a bus, which is a huge danger in itself. So I do believe in the product, but I would appreciate clarification on that answer.
Absolutely. You got it. Yep, I'll have it to you by tomorrow morning.
Anyone else? Great. I think, so you're looking for basically.
If we want to start in the fall, we would need to approve at our June board meeting. And this agreement has to be reviewed and sent to the solicitors. We haven't done any of that yet because we really wanted to see if this is a direction we wanted to go before we spent that money.
Levy's aware?
Levy was also participating in the conversation and is supportive.
Okay. Anyone object? Good.
No, I think we should take next step.
Yeah.
More positives than any negatives.
Yeah, I do want to just make a general comment, and this is not for Matt specifically, but I do have data, and like this, I'm not going to beat this horse to death. I just wanted to put it out there, that according to the National Highway Safety Transportation Authority, in the years 2010 to 2019, there were 203 related pedestrian fatalities as a result of a school transportation-related crash. So 203 in a 10-year period. Of those, 2/3 were hit by the school bus, okay, which obviously the system doesn't help with. So we're talking 62 pedestrians struck and killed in a 10-year period. So in my mind, what I'm weighing, it looks like the risk, at least of death, is minuscule, right? So in my mind, what I'm weighing is reducing that risk by 30%, which is what they're saying, worth the loss of, worth sending our video to a third-party company of our kids. So that's sort of what's going on in my mind. I do have that concern. So I'm just putting that out there, and we can all weigh that as we see fit, so.
I understand your point, Laura.
Yeah, and as I said, I'm not going to beat it.
No, and I would say that, Matt, any questions I would have in my mind in regard to what Laura is saying is if you said, hey, yeah, we're all federally background checked the whole 9 yards, I'd feel a lot better.
Or some assurance that the actual videos of kids are not actually getting into the, like I would, a review of the security, I think is a reasonable.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions for Matt?
Right, I think that's it for the operations portion of the meeting then.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. Have a great evening.
All right, thank you, Mr. Freeze. We are now going to move on to Curriculum and Technology Committee and Mrs. Klinger.
Good evening. We will start with the student handbooks, which is 3.1, and I believe Kelly's going to take the lead, but probably the administrators of each school will tell us changes that were being made in their handbooks.
Yeah, we're going to start with Mr. Brem from Salisbury Elementary.
Okay.
We'll bring up the changes up here.
Is Mr. Brem here? I didn't see him.
Yes, he is right there.
Right here.
I haven't seen you without your beard.
Oh.
Yeah, me too. He's more jolly.
What did I do wrong? Oh, it's different.
So many of the changes that were made to the handbook are highlighted in yellow currently. Any of the changes that we haven't made yet but will need to before the start of the school year would be highlighted in red in the handbook document. Some of the changes, and I won't go into too much detail, but things like the school year, updating the school name on the front of the handbook. It still previously said elementary school, so we updated that with Salisbury Elementary. Listing Mr. Mushlitz as the assistant principal, updating the welcome letter, those types of things. All the way up to the district calendar are things that we update on a regular basis. Some things that I wanted to draw attention to, the bus transportation policy on page 18. Let me just get to that.
You want to bring that up, Zach?
Sure. I actually believe it's on page 17. So previously we had listed, I believe it was primary students under the bus information tab. If you scroll down just a little bit. And we specifically listed kindergarten and first grade in this area, just to minimize any confusion and any questions that we would receive from parents indicating what students are able to be a walker. And basically that if any student is a kindergarten or first grade student and they're riding a bus and that parent happens not to be at the bus stop, that those students would return to the school building and then a phone call would be made to the parents. The next change is on page 24, and that has to do with our daily dismissal. So this update, partway through the school year, we started utilizing more of the red parking spaces during our dismissal process, which helps to move the process along a little bit quicker and expedite things. So that change was made under that section, and that would have been on page 18, I believe. I'm sorry, daily dismissal exit procedure, which is page 24. Under hours of school operation, under the section of notification of closing or late start.
I know. It's not really.
It's on page 30. I'll just explain it. We updated this section. In the past, we used a different method than ThrillShare to communicate with families. So we updated this to make sure parents know to update their information on the community portal, because that's where ThrillShare pulls information from. We have a document that we send out to parents at the beginning of the school year or for new enrollments, indicating what they need to do to set up the community portal account and to let them know that. So that way, if they contact us and say, we're not getting notifications for some reason, we usually go down the path of asking them, has your email address changed? Has your phone number been changed? And have you updated the community portal? So we wanted to make sure that matched in the handbook. As far as telephone guidelines, just updating that between the hours of 3:45 and 4:45 to contact Joanna Garcia and the bus garage, because at that point, we will no longer have a staff member in the office, an administrative assistant. Her day ends at 4:45.
3:45.
I'm sorry, 3:45. No, 4:45. So if they contact the bus garage, correct, after 3:45, thank you, 2:45, they contact the bus garage, not the school office.
Should we let her know that you want to work an extra hour every day?
She already stays late most days. As far as bullying, we updated our bullying policy, so that has been reflected in the handbook as well. And then on page 46, under curriculum, the reading language arts program with the adoption of wit and wisdom had to be updated to reflect that program. Are there any questions about the current changes to the elementary handbook?
Why do we change that? Why do we include that wording on page 2 about the health and safety plan? Do the other two handbooks have similar wording? It's about masking. It's highlighted in red on page 2.
Page 2.
Page 2.
Keep going.
Oh, sorry.
So that was something that was added this school year, and it's highlighted in red just because we're waiting for updates to whether or not we'll have a health and safety plan for the upcoming school year.
I'm just thinking it seems to make more sense to put something like that in the health and safety plan, just because if something were to change in the health and safety plan, then we'd have to come back and change this document as well. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like it just seems odd that we would specify that here. And I don't know if do the other handbooks have the same wording about attendance?
So at the middle school, we identified the link to the health and safety plan, which will be updated as we go along. So I particularly did it that way so that it's constantly updated.
That's what I was thinking, yeah, so that
That's the way that we did it at the middle school, because it's automatically updated for parents to know exactly based on the tiers.
That's what I'm thinking would be better.
And the point is that we're holding students accountable through the student handbook.
Yeah.
Holding people accountable for the health and safety plan through the student handbook, that they need to follow the health and safety plan. But I like the idea of a link too.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, over to Mr. Swicky.
Hello, everybody. So as we look at the middle school handbook, a lot of the changes that took place are just updating the verbiage of some of the topics that are in our handbook. So for example, the first one, we are in the process still of scheduling, so that won't be added until the schedules are done over the summertime. So once that is done, that will be added to the handbook to be shared out with all of our stakeholders. School code, based on conversations, we added the dissection policy into our school board, so that outlines exactly what dissection is if being in the science classroom or anywhere else. 3 and 4 dealt with just updating the attendance policy. We found that the attendance policy can sometimes not be a user-friendly read, so to speak. So we tried to make it easier for parents and students to understand exactly what the expectations are here at the middle school in the handbook to better understand what those policies are based on state mandates holding students accountable for attendance in the building. We also now have the updated hall and lavatory passes. We are currently using SmartPass in our building. That has been a new addition this past year, which we found to be very helpful. So we went through the handbook and changed all the places where passes were mentioned. So the passes now are electronic passes that are now assigned by teachers. Students can sign in, sign out with teacher approval. And this also helps as far as regulating the number of students in the hallway and traffic as well to and from classes and going to places like the main office or anywhere else in the building that requires a pass to be issued. Updated some of the recess policy just to include as far as what the expectations are for recess, supervision and monitoring, and then added another section which wasn't in our handbook regarding students walking to school. Just wanted to make sure that parents understand and students understand that the students, if they are walkers, that we are responsible for them from the time they leave their house to the time they come to school and vice versa, so that we understand exactly where students are and where they should be, and parents know that they are obviously heading home. Now, if a student goes home and goes somewhere else, then obviously it's up to the parents to make sure that they know where their children are at all times. And then the last piece was in our elementary portion of our handbook, in the course offerings, was to once again, as Zach mentioned, update the Wit and Wisdom program for our 5th grade students that are at the middle school. Any questions?
Do you have students showing up before 7 a.m. on a regular basis?
We do have parents that do drop students off early, whether it be because they have work obligations or it's just something that day they had to drop them off. So we do have some students that do, whether they be dropped off or arriving early, but at the same time we do have a breakfast program, so some students do get there early to go to breakfast as well. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, when we have Mr. Yurchek.
All right. Oh, I guess I need. So for the high school changes, the general updating the assistant principal's name and the board members that have changed. And then on page 4, and all the changes are in order by page. But we added the grade system, class rank, and numeric grade average, and academic honor roll. There wasn't much academic information in the handbook. It was all found in the program of studies, but found it informational to have that in the student and family handbook. And then changing the definition of tardy. Tardy and late were used interchangeably. And just for the sake of consistency, using the term tardy, as that's how it relates to how things are coded in our system in Sapphire. Adding in-school suspension as a consequence for each infraction where an out-of-school suspension is listed. If you look at any of the research associated with out-of-school suspensions, and even in conversations I had with students, they would prefer the out-of-school suspension, just because, unfortunately, depending on what's happening out of school, it's a vacation for many of them, and it's best to have them in school so that we can support them, as opposed to saying, you're out of here, you got to do the work. For a lot of students, it was really beneficial. We ran this as a trial run, maybe only 5 days of in-school suspension were served this year, but it was good to see, like students said, that thank you with one student because they were able to catch up on some work and they had a little more direction as opposed to what they would have had at home. So adding that, anywhere there's an out-of-school suspension, we now added the ISS as well. Changing extracurricular to co-curricular, that was strictly extracurricular, oftentimes is looked at as beyond the school day, and looking at co-curricular is more of incorporating academics, so this could be debate all the way up to football. The Wednesday evening detention was another trial run this year. We have Saturday morning detentions, which are the 3-hour detentions from 8:30 to 11:30. We now, going forward next year, will run 2:45 to 5:45, a Wednesday evening detention, which is that 3-hour extended detention. Students oftentimes have work on Saturdays, or maybe they're out of town, they're with another member of the family. So this will allow the opportunity for students to serve that at a different time if that's a requirement. Electronic devices, just updated to reflect trends, so the earbuds, tablets, smartwatches. Added classroom, so for electronic devices, this was a huge, when I came in, looking at how to tackle this in the classrooms. Right now, students pretty much think it's okay to use it unless they're told not to, when technically, when Mr. Muschlitz put this into play, it was you cannot use it unless you're given permission. So trying to come back to that and being more explicit with some of the wording in the handbook, as you'll see with number 11 and 12, let me go back, 10, 11, and 12. So it's classroom use is prohibited without permission from an instructor. And then adding that students, you'd be surprised how many students, we didn't talk about this across the district yet, we will this summer, but how many students would take calls during the day just in a class or be on FaceTime with different people because they'd have the earbuds in, with their phone in front of them. And making it so that that's explicitly stated, you cannot do this. And we'll obviously be making families aware of any of these, not necessarily changes, but things we want to be more strict about. The designated areas, red, yellow, and green under electronic devices. So if you look, there's a restricted, regulated, and permitted areas for use. Any questions about any of that so far? I'm just kind of rolling through.
What would be a regulated, like what's the area in the middle that's?
So a classroom, right? So a classroom you are permitted, it's allowed with permission. So that's regulated versus restricted, thinking in a bathroom. Students shouldn't be using a phone in the bathroom for a number of reasons.
Yep.
Or the main office for privacy purposes, but then in the cafeteria, totally fine. During their lunch, totally fine. During a study hall, totally fine. Dressing, grooming, just looking back, I'd have to look at how that was modified, but just stating that all shirts must contact the top of the waistline and not expose any portion of the torso is in line with, there's a diagram, actually, in dressing, grooming, area of the handbook that I guess displays this. Adding vaping to now read as smoking and vaping in different sections of the handbook. Changed AM or PM detention to a 30-minute or 60-minute detention. So we did add, instead of doubling up on detention, so saying you need to serve maybe 2 30 minutes, there's now a 60-minute to make it more progressive, of a progressive form of discipline. For tardies to school, adding a 5th or 6th offense so that again, it was on the 5th offense, you had to serve a Saturday morning detention. Now it is the 7th. And I think a lot of this is based on, if you look at the data this year, just from tardies for the high school students, based on where we live and traffic patterns and things that happen, there are a lot of things that do occur that are beyond their control if you're driving to school. Possession, sale, what we got here? Oh, so just again being more explicit with the vaping products, because that's been a huge issue at the high school. Changing the enforcement of simple or aggravated assault from 10 days, it was strictly 10 days OSS, to 5 to 10 days, so that again could be a little more progressive depending on the magnitude of the incident. Adding definitions for Wednesday evening detention, added the in-school suspension definition, and the dissection portion. And then I added that right there. We do need to add a link to the health and safety plan, which will be done this evening.
Thanks. We have one more. And this one's really quick, but we do have a vast handbook for both elementary and secondary, and they had similar changes. So there's just, it's attendance primarily, correct?
So when we sat down and looked at the handbooks for VAST, one of the things that we're noticing is that the number of lessons that students were required to complete was not matching up with the length of the marking period. And that was the reason. The reason for that was because when the IU partner with COLA for the actual programs. They would update the lessons, and some of the times that they've updated the lessons, it wouldn't match up with what we currently had. So what you see now is that the number of lessons required per grade level band now matches the amount of lessons that are in the program for those students. So that should take them to the end of the marking period or end of the semester, so they are done on time to be able to move on to the next part of the studies. Students, once again, can move ahead and do more lessons that week if they choose to, but we at least try to give them a guideline to make sure that they are staying on track to finish the course on time, but at the same time, be able to track their attendance as well. And then the second piece of that was we changed the attendance range from Sunday until Saturday to Monday through Sunday, just to make it easier for parents to keep track of attendance and lessons and when to complete lessons, so that it's just easier for everyone all around. And those were made in both the elementary and secondary handbooks. Thank you.
Thanks. Those are all the changes.
Any questions for Lynn?
I don't have a question, but I just want to highlight the vaping concerns that we've seen this year following Ryan's conversation about the handbook. Significantly more violations than previously, and the high schools been thinking about and working on education and helping students better understand. And from my conversations with Heather and Ryan, it's like kids are feeling like smoking is bad, but vaping is okay for whatever reason, and that's really concerning for health reasons. Our board policy does allow us to use vape wands, which we have purchased too, and we have developed some administrative guidelines for those use of those wands. And not vape, did I say vape wands? It wasn't like a metal detector wand type thing. We have developed some internal guidelines for administrators. I have shared those with the solicitor, make sure that we have a solid foundation for that. And the police department will be training our administrative team at the middle school and high school on using them and best practice. So that's something that we're hoping will deter students from bringing vapes to school starting in the fall. Thanks, Carol.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from anyone? Okay. If not, thank you for all your work, because I know it's hard to weed through all that and keep it up to date, so I appreciate all your work. Thank you. We'll move on to 3.2, which is district technology applications. It's regarding the contracts, the technology applications we use, and the contracts that we must approve for next year.
We have some applications that we use or have used in the past, and there was a lot of them coming due here with the end of June and the start of the new fiscal year. So we thought it would just be helpful to give you an overview of what we use, how we purchase those, what funds we use for it. So this is a pretty good overlay of the kinds of digital resources we use. We use everything from Zern, which is part of our math curriculum. Zern is actually free, but if you want any of the data reports that go at the school level, and so some of our folks like the building administrators, myself, and even our intervention team, because they see students in multiple classrooms, without a school account, they can't see any of the students' progress. So we found that to be really helpful. In the past, we've had PD built into there, but now that we're 2 years in, we're going to drop that aspect, so we're pulling back a little bit on some of these applications. Seesaw, we used the free version, and then when we shut down for COVID and we needed a more robust system to communicate with parents, we did purchase the subscription for K-2 specifically. That's gone really well, and it actually is a parent engagement an application to engage parents, and so we'd like to keep it. The teachers have done a wonderful job of maximizing its use, as our students have as well. So we've seen such success, we'd like to keep it, and we are, as a Title I school, required to do parent engagement. So this is a simple way, and teachers have already been trained and are invested, so we're going to continue that with a multi-year agreement so we can lock in pricing. We use some other, for science, we were maintaining what we've used in the past until we go through the professional development and then really evaluate resources. So at this point, we were maintaining what we had. And we've tried a variety of additional math applications. Right now, we're in a pilot with First in Math. And in the past, we've used MobiMax. We're kind of evaluating all of those. I have surveys out to teachers now to kind of see where we stand, and with administrators as well, what do we want to continue? There is some idea that with some of these applications, there's a little bit of a, novelty effect. When it's novel, it's more interesting. And, so is there some effect in switching every now and again, not because there's anything wrong with the application, but just because it's a different way to practice multiplication, or it's a different way to do something. So we have those conversations, ongoing. We use FastBridge, which that's one of the contracts that's up for renewal. At this point, we're looking to maintain FastBridge at least until our ESSER funds, and we have to stop reporting on ESSER. One of the very neat, well, I'm a nerd, so I think it's neat, but it was pretty FastBridge, we, for the first time, could upload local assessment data into PVOS, which is how the state gives us growth information. So we were able to take our elementary K to 4 FastBridge data, and we were able to get PVOS reports for how we're doing. So now we have, did the kids reach benchmark, but we also have how much did they grow and how much are they growing. So we think right now, that's enough useful data for us as we track learning loss for us to continue those applications. And Chris Smith and I are looking at, can we do something similar for grades 5 through 8 now that we have FastBridge. CDTs will automatically go in there. So if we use classroom diagnostic tool at the high school, we'll get that growth data as well. So we're getting more out of the products. Unfortunately, FastBridge for ELA doesn't. They don't, for whatever reason, the systems don't match. I'm not clear on why, and that's something that I'm looking into. But again, because we have to report on learning loss, I think right now it's sort of keep things as they are for now. We are negotiating Edpuzzle. Prices went up quite a bit, but our teachers really do like it. Our early survey data is pretty clear that we have lots of high-end users. So I wanted you to know, when I'm putting a contract to you, where the funding is coming from, why we're using it, what the thinking is behind it, that we survey our teachers annually, and we have conversations with teachers at the table about what they're using and why, and we always try to get the best pricing. IU21 does a lot of consortium pricing through PAIU system and through their local efforts. And we sometimes do multi-year agreements to try to get better pricing as well. And sometimes when you're piloting, like we got First in Math for 6 months, and we've been able to take advantage of that. So we're trying different things to see what will work for us and work for our teachers, and just trying to always assess the quality. So with that said, there's a couple that are coming up, contracts, that we'll have on the June board meeting. So if you have any questions about those, I'm happy to talk about them, on any of those questions. Just wanted you to realize that we are downgrading some of these apps. Like, they change. They're not always the same. So you know what I mean? Like, they don't always stay the same, and we're changing them for lots of different reasons that we'd be bringing them to you. But most of the time, we try to pilot something to make sure that it fits. It's user-friendly, kids at least like it, and they work with our technology. So,
And largely changing them based on teacher input and needs changing.
And availability. There for a while, a lot of the free apps started to turn to paid apps. And there for a while, like, something people were using a lot of then suddenly wasn't free anymore. And so we've had to, make adjustments. And that we're still doing that. So,
any questions for Kelly? I think it's good that you're constantly assessing, the usage of this and keeping up with the teachers, because, we don't want to be paying for something that is barely used. So, and you're constantly assessing what's useful and what's not. what's being used. So, thank you.
I have a quick question. How do you decide what pot of money it comes from? Like, I see some of these grant, some building, some curriculum, like, what's the rhyme or reason?
It's a great question. So we, like Zern last time, we had professional development built in there, so we were able to use Title II dollars. We're not able to use Title II dollars because we're downgrading it and not having the built-in PD. SES is a Title I building, so we're going to use Title I funds. So some of it is, what is the product? What does it do for us? Fastbridge, we're required as a Title I school to have benchmark measures. So we're using Title I dollars because that's what's funding those pieces. Some of the curriculum items, the nice to haves, we got a Breakout EDU, which is like an escape room kind of tool for education. We equipped our library media teachers. So some school districts might buy something like that for everybody. We bought it for our library media teachers, for them to partner with teachers because that's not something they're going to do all the time. But it was, like maybe something they're going to do after PSSAs as a kind of review activity or something like that. So it was a great way for our library media teachers to partner. So our secondary folks had those Breakout EDU pieces. And I think, we have the breakout boxes and the locks, and, but it's not something you use every day as a teacher, right, if you know what I mean. So we try to be very conservative. So I got those out of curriculum because they were serving schools that weren't Title I, and it was a nice to have, but it was within the realm of, the budget we could handle, if that makes sense.
Paid for by the building. I guess I'm asking, why are some building dollars and some curriculum dollars, why aren't they taken out of the same budget lines?
For some things are just for that particular building. They're only using it there. And it's something the teachers in that particular building wanted to have, or it's out of their library media budget for that particular school.
It's sort of a chess game, right? Like, we look at the need, and then we think about the grants and the allowable uses, and then we look at the most restrictive grant first. Does it apply there? And then kind of move down the line. So you really have to know the grants, and we will write the federal programs grants hopefully by July 1. So having this list, we'll look at everything that we need to do and then determine whether it goes to Title I, Title II, or Title IV, or could be renewed via ESSER, or it's already in Kelly's budget for curriculum,
Okay.
or the building budgets.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to 3.3, which is the comprehensive plan, which I believe we have to approve by July or August, whenever the board meeting occurs.
Could I ask possibly for a 5-minute break?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's break until like 8:20. Sure, sorry.
You got 3.5.
Welcome back. Comprehensive plan. Yes, sorry.
Okay. So school districts in Pennsylvania are required to have a comprehensive plan. It was our turn. It was our turn for a lot of things this year, but this is one of them. So we've been trying to give the board some updates throughout the year. So just a little bit of a reminder about the process. We have to go in and it's multiple plans. And I guess to the benefit, in school code, we're required to do lots of different things for lots of different reasons. And what Pennsylvania worked for probably a decade on is getting it down to a more manageable process so you can kind of cover a lot of things with the same core action plan, and then you sign assurances for these other requirements that you have. So the requirements are your mission, vision, and values. You look at your standards and your assessment practices, and then you've got some other required plans around professional development, special ed, which you've heard from Tracy already, and Mike Vaccaro, as well as student services, induction, and gifted. So these are all the required sections. The way it's set up is it's a ready, set, go. Literally in the plan, it says ready, set, go. And, ready is looking at your values, your mission, and your vision. Your set is taking a look at your data. So you're required to go in and look at multiple sources of data. State data, your PSSA, your Keystone, your growth data, which is based on those same assessments. So it's the same assessment data, just looking at it from a different lens, from how much kids are growing over time, and whether that growth is typical growth or above or below. And then finally, from they walk you, you can't skip any steps. Everything is like, you have to fill in this part, and then it fills in this part, and basically as it walks you through the process, whatever your data says, you need to have a priority area. So what's your how does that translate in your situation? This was a little bit challenging, quite frankly, because we didn't have PSSAs in 2020. 2021, we have data. We did take the PSSAs and Keystones, but we had far fewer students taking these assessments than we have in the past. And we had learning loss, and we were online, and we took the assessments online. There's a lot of variables that are happening for us to interpret those numbers. So basically, I looked at the multiple years of data, like backtracking, and areas that were already of a core concern or something that we wanted to watch because we were making changes. Those were the things that were that rose to the top. And then finally, from those sources of data, you have an action plan that you put into place. In addition to that Ready, Set, Go process, we had stakeholder sessions in November and December, which some of you here participated in. We did a SWOT analysis, and we got some feedback from our teachers, our community members, our board members, our administrators. And that was also really helpful, not only just to give us, it's different data, right? It's qualitative data, it's perceptual data, but still very valuable for what are the concerns of our learning environment. So we came up with a couple of core areas. I don't think any of these are a surprise because I feel like a lot of these are things we were already either working on or were on our radar. Strong core instruction. In the past, when we started developing systems of intervention, sometimes when your focus is over here, you're not, it's hard to pay attention to everything at once. And so we're kind of really resetting. We've got some great intervention practices, and now we just want to make sure those are on a solid foundation of strong Tier 1 instruction across the board. We want to look at effective intervention. When we intervene, we want to make sure that those practices are having an impact on kids and helping them grow and with learning loss. Parent engagement, this is a really wonderful community, and we have lots of parents and stakeholders who want not only their children to succeed, but want the district to succeed. And we saw that over the last year with a lot of the parent engagement opportunities that we did provide. We had really good turnout, and we had a lot of interest. And I think all of us really enjoyed it as well as teachers and administrators. So we saw that as a wonderful opportunity, and at the same time, it ties back to some of our financial goals because we realized that some of our charter school families have never actually been in our district. They don't really know us, and we have a lot to offer, and we have a lot to be proud of. And so the more we engage our community, the more we can engage our whole community, including those families who can maybe find their place here with their children. And then finally, we have a 3-year transition to the science standards. So this is how, this is, by the way, a draft. As Carol said, we're not adopting anything in June. This is a draft where we're going to be getting feedback from our community and from our staff and stakeholders, and then we will bring you a revised copy to a board meeting in the future, either July or August, depending on how things play out. But basically, because we're looking at strong Tier 1 instruction, we want to look at that science of reading and foundational skills, the work we've already been doing, but just, you can learn about something, but then making those small tweaks, because it's not about our teachers working harder. They're working really hard. We have data to show how much we're growing, but it's also oh, if I do this instead, could we get a little more growth? So it's these small moves that we're making that could have a big impact. That's what we're really looking for. With our middle school, our ELA, text-dependent analysis is 25% of the PSSA, and with our reduced instructional time in ELA, because in the past we've had a reading class and a writing class, and now we've got one class, we just want to make sure, our thinking was we just wanted to make sure that we were kind of doing as much as we could do to still hit those benchmarks, even with the reduced time. Middle school math, which again, we've talked about in the past. Mr. Parliament's been very creative and hard at work with the team over there at the middle school to really look at how we could look at the structure and the schedule differently to build in some opportunities for intervention and support for some of our learners. And so we think we have a viable plan that we can put into place for next year. Looking at our graduation, our portrait of graduate, those kinds of pieces. With effective intervention, we are looking at our MTSS framework. That's our multi-tiered system of support. So again, we have core instruction, but then how do we intensify intervention so that hopefully students never reach the idea of never reach the need for special education or other services, or if they do, we're really sure it's not a lack of quality instruction to begin with. So those are those pieces. At the middle school, we're looking at our 6th grade team, providing additional support. We think we can make that happen due to our numbers with Project Wonder and freeing up some staff. And we're really grateful to that 6th grade team for being willing to pilot something like this and to be able to take some risks and try some new things. With parent engagement, we want to take a look at our website. So for the most part, when you look at these dates, you'll see that most of them I tried to start after our August board meeting so that the dates aligned, because you're going to vote on it and approve it. But with some of them, I was like, well, I want to let you know we're working on some things, including the website over the summer, because the summer is the perfect opportunity for us to do some of that work when things are a little less hectic and we have some time to design and plan and look at some models. And so some of this work is going to, we envision of starting over the summer. We think the website is, a key area for parents to get information and community members, and we want to make sure that that's as user-friendly as a process. And we also want to have some promotional materials that kind of show us in our best light. I mean, our programs at LCTI, there's 43 different programs at LCTI. We have kids in early college. We have honors classes, AP classes. I don't know that you get that there's a way to fully right now on our website that you get that effect of all that we have to offer. And so we would just want to bring that to the top. And then of course have parent events and parent engagement opportunities where not only we're bringing together parents, but we're bringing together kids and parents and kids together to do some learning. And then we've talked a lot about the science standards, so I think that sort of speaks for itself. So the plan has to be posted for at least 30 days. This will be posted where, on our website. We'll have a link there for folks to give any feedback should they have any. And, I'm already thinking of things maybe that, oh, I missed this, or this is an opportunity. So, we're still in that, it's a fluid process and still bringing that to the table. But I think we're pretty excited, and, I think it was only affirming to go through this process to see some of the things we were already thinking were an issue, like they are indeed rising to the top as an area, and that the creativity of some of our teams have already been thinking of more creative solutions than I think we even had in mind earlier this year. So any questions or comments?
What are you looking to get out of in a 30-day period? Are you looking for just general feedback, or do you have specific things you're going to be asking the community for? I realize you might still be trying to work that out, but it seems like it's a lot to ask the community for feedback for. I'm just curious how you're going to.
Well, it's an opportunity for feedback. So I think I was thinking more generally. I hadn't really thought of asking specific questions. But you're right. It is like the full document it's a lot.
Sure, yeah.
When I printed it out so we could talk about it. I was like, it kept printing and it kept printing and it kept printing because it's really
Literally like this.
Yeah.
It's
It is.
I guess my point is, if you just put the document out and say, what's your feedback?
Yeah.
Is that problematic?
Yeah, you're sparking sort of something in my mind. I like the idea of actually articulating, here are our 4 goals. Do you agree, with these goals that these are important? Or are there other pieces that you think would be important? So maybe some contextualized questions.
Yeah, I was wondering the same, if there could be like the full document plus like a Reader's Digest version.
Well, and really this presentation could be the Reader's Digest version, right? Like we could absolutely put that on there because really this slide is.
You told me I had 4 slides. And I was like, I can't do it in 4 slides. But I think I did pretty good.
We negotiated. Kelly could talk about this for an hour, so, But I like that. I think that's a good question, Chris, and good feedback for us. It is, yeah. Yeah, this is the first look.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
Any questions or concerns or comments? I'm glad to see that intervention is coming to the forefront, because I always worry about the students in the middle that kind of get lost. They're not special ed qualified, or they're not the most gifted. What about those kids that just need that help? And I also like the promotional part of our district. We need to promote our district. We need to be the promoters that sell our district. And I'm glad to see that. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Well, I think that's it for curriculum.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We're going to move on to a couple items of policy review. The first one, we had spoken last month, and actually a few times over the last few months, about forming a finance committee. So I put together a draft. Can that be up there for everyone to see?
Sure.
I mean, you guys have seen it. Like a draft document of what the finance committee would, sort of like a charge for the committee, duties of the committee.
It's makeup and everything.
Yeah, it's makeup. Yeah, I'm not going to read this because you guys have all read it. The thing is, if we add this as a committee, the meetings need to be public. So I'd like to suggest that they occur once per month, maybe at noon and over Zoom. And I am, open to feedback and suggestions on this.
Did you say noon
Yes,
on a weekday?
most likely. I mean, we could do it in the evening, whatever works.
Us have jobs during the
Sure.
day, so that would be problematic, I think. And same with the public as well.
Okay.
I mean, if somebody can do it, more power to you, but I think the public would have a hard time participating as well.
So not noon.
I think more than anything else, that was just trying to demonstrate some flexibility on what is going to be best.
Yeah.
Yeah, and noon probably isn't that, but.
Okay.
And I think it depends on who wants to participate and what that, each of your availability is to what works best for you. I mean, do you envision everybody attending this meeting? Do you envision adding another Wednesday night, or is this a small group?
Yeah, you're getting like, what are we supposed to be deciding right now? So you're answering the question before I can even ask it.
Like a feel for whether you're supportive of this or not supportive of this, because if you're supportive of this, then we need to change one of our actual board policies, which we'll get to next.
I think in, Chris's conversation he had prior, I think it's a good idea. I think maybe as far as time and members and things, we come back to that next meeting after everybody,
I mean, I think your framework seems reasonable. I don't have any objections to what you're describing. I don't think we need to have the whole board. I mean, everyone can attend, including the public. I just don't think it needs to be mandatory for everybody to try to make it. So I think what you've described seems reasonable. In terms of what you're saying in terms of the policy, what is the challenge?
All right, we'll flip over there.
Actually, let me ask just a quick question here, just because of how you had phrased this first document. So the idea would be that there would be 4 members of the committee. So like, let's say I am not on the committee and wish to sit in, it's still okay. Like, because you had it on there as to not constitute a majority of the board. Why did you phrase it that? I'm not saying it's bad wording. I'm just asking, why did you phrase it that way?
I mean, it could be more.
Yeah, I was just curious. It's not by any means a criticism.
We're so not as
I wrote this before it went to the solicitor.
I guess let me ask a different question to that point. Is there a problem if we do essentially have a quorum? Like if we had 5 members present? I guess
As long as you're meeting and discussing in public, it's fine.
Okay.
And once you decide what you want to do, we'll double check with the solicitor to make sure we're on solid ground.
It's no different than any other committee meeting, though. Everybody can attend.
Sounds like, yeah.
We can go either way. If everybody attends, then you have board all there and you decide if you can attend. If you have a finance committee, you always try to keep it less than 5, so no board action can be done there. So if you have 5 people and you vote, you could take action at that time. So
Yeah, but with the additional agenda restrictions that were introduced in August, it's really hard. Yeah.
If you write it into your charter, it's a non-voting, but theoretically, if 5 board members meet, that's the sunshine law, and it's into that. So that's, I think, what she was trying to do. And historically, we always kept the adjunct finance committee to less than 5.
Yeah, but our solicitor has informed us that even if it's less than 5, we still need to meet and deliberate in public.
Yeah, but with 5, we always kept it less than so nobody could vote or do anything in that matter.
Yeah. Okay, so then the change in the actual policy.
The change in the policy, and Mary's double checking it because I'm not able to open it, but the change in the policy was actually adding that committee to the policy, adding a finance committee. And I think this is another thing to think about is if we're going to maintain a work session, then adding the finance. If the board thinks, we're going to move back to, operations and curriculum next year or next January, then maybe you maintain finance with operations. So
just forming an actual committee, listing it in the policy really speaks to the importance that we as a board are putting in this work. Go ahead, Sam.
That is make sure that this, just like the minutes of the other meetings are posted.
Sure.
These get posted in the general, so in case a member of the public isn't there, they can read the minutes and catch up on it.
Okay.
You could just add that, that'd be great.
Okay.
And on that same note, would then, especially if the meetings are being on Zoom, are we going to be recording them? Because I think that would be good policy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that.
I think if any meeting of the public board should be recorded from here on out.
And publicly posted.
Thanks, everybody.
So just to clarify, what's the directive?
We're moving forward.
We're moving forward. So we're going to revise the policy for the June board meeting, and that will be our first reading at the June board meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
Folks are going to let me know if they're interested in serving.
And then when do we anticipate starting this? Because we would have to go through the process of advertising, and so like,
September?
okay.
What is too soon?
I think that's a board, yeah, that's true.
We have to approve the policy
Yeah.
and then advertise meetings. So first reading June, approval in August, advertising September.
I'm fine, I'm just asking the question.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. Moving on, I had emailed the board over the weekend. PSBA puts together a legislative policy agenda every year, and school districts are invited to submit proposals. I actually have a document that I can share, if that's okay.
Sure.
Hang on one second. Let me find it here. Where did it go? Oh my goodness. I have lost it. So I sent you guys all the background information. No, I don't think it's I think I saved it to my computer, though. Bear with me. I'm not an Apple person.
15 people watching.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sweating.
Only on one computer.
Where is it? I mean, maybe. Where did it go? All right, let me try here. Oh. Did I save it in Google Docs? Hang on. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh.
So maybe I can just give a little bit of background on what it is while Sarah navigates to it. Basically, PSBA puts together a legislative policy agenda. What are their priorities for policy? What do they want to focus on with legislators? So for example, there might be something in there about charter school reform. There might be something in there about transportation and the 10-mile radius for all non-public and charter schools. And they're asking districts to say what's important to you in your district, what would you like to see included, and in addition to what you would like to see included, in 50 words, why is that important to you? So for example, charter schools might be important to us because we had a $1.8 million gap and we paid $3 million in charter school tuition. So big picture idea, and then some context related to your district.
Is that better? Okay, so I put this together this afternoon. No action needed tonight other than do we want to move forward with this or do we not?
Make it slightly bigger.
Yes.
Make it a little bit smaller.
Okay, so we can submit original proposals or we can submit our a request to continue some of the items that are already in there. So I pulled out our list of talking points from Advocacy Day a few weeks ago and just put some information together. And then went back and added in which of the core principles in the document that those support. So a lot of these support core principles that are already there. And I'll send this around to everybody.
Sarah, it was very nice. You sent that document, and I read through it, and of all the principles they had, the only thing I take umbrage with, I did not like when they talked about stopping state assessments and testing of districts. I thought that's how we got charter schools to begin with. They were graduating students that weren't reading on a high school level, and we were putting them out. We continue at LTRI-C, see students of those levels.
Yeah.
So there has to be some standard or accountability, and you can't let it fully be district-related, governance or testing. So that's the only thing I had umbrage with in that thing, that they were supporting that, and I think that's just a real slippery slope.
Yeah, and I don't know the rationale of
I didn't either. I was looking for it.
It's a group of delegates
Yeah.
that literally meets and talks all these things out. So we're not privy to the discussion that they had at this point, but.
I think,
Yeah, other than that, I thought it was a well-written document.
Right.
And it was right on with all the financial points and stuff, was good. But that's when I found a little, that's just
Okay.
a step too far.
Okay.
Just bring it up for your consideration.
Okay, so, most of these, like I said, support some of the core principles that are already in there, but number 2 is something that, would benefit us, I'm sure would benefit many other districts, that we would support the elimination of the 10-mile busing requirement for resident students who attend charter, parochial, and private schools. For a district the size and shape of Salisbury Township, our 10-mile radius covers the majority of Lehigh and Northampton counties. During the school year, we had 42 daily bus routes. I'd have to find the number of those that go to buildings other than our 3 buildings, and that we would save about $750,000 each year by eliminating this requirement. So,
One thing that I did see, and I'm sorry that I don't remember exactly where it was, but I definitely saw it, that I think is important for our district is reimbursement from the state for properties that are tax exempt, specifically the hospital, right? So, and I think back that, probably was the most surprising graphic I've seen all year, was that there's such a huge gap between where we are and Allentown and Bethlehem is and the rest of the county, like just in terms of what percentage of our tax base is actually tax exempt.
okay.
Yeah. And yet there was a notation about that. And I think it was more general, but specifically looking at that aspect of it, like,
Okay.
hey, we have this giant hospital system eating up all of our,
I'm sure we can find other communities
yeah.
that have that same issue. So I guess at this point, my question is, do we want to proceed with this? We would have to have our proposals in by July something, but they have to be board approved, so we would need to have them on the agenda in 2 weeks.
Are you going to send that around to us?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I say let's do it.
see.
Okay.
I mean, every year we've set out a note to our solicitors, not our solicitor, to our
Legislators.
legislatures of, these are all the problems we have.
Yeah.
And I just think it'd be good to do that again and keep reminding them that things haven't got better, you haven't done anything to help us, and these things are eating us alive.
Yeah, this is just another avenue that we have of sharing our voice.
And the other one I saw in there I liked a lot, they talked about not having flat funding from the state and going with a graduated percentage increase. Because the problem with flat funding, you get 800,000 more, but they don't, and then your costs go up and you're stuck there. Not having an index that raises that funding automatically in SISTA is it really hurts a district of our nature. That we don't have that growth, we just have a bucket and then boom, we don't catch up anymore. So I saw that in there and I thought that was another nice piece to add to it that we would support.
Okay. Great.
So is everybody supporting all 5 of these ideas? So we'll put all these together.
Okay, cool. Thanks, everybody. Okay, next meeting, Wednesday, September 7th. And can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you to those in attendance here tonight with us and watching online.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.